Alright, the next question he has me asking is, who is Julie Sue? Well, Julie Sue is, as I mentioned earlier, is the stepsister of Lena Da and is the step-granddaughter of Dimitri. Basically, her story is sort of an unusual one. She was born basically. She was given. Well, she was born to a mother who I guess ended up getting killed by Lena Da. Lena Da, I guess, had poisoned her or something, or done something to write her off. And Lena Da and her brother, at the time I can't think of his name, Rajak or something like that, didn't like Julie Sue. They didn't like how the mother was treating her, showing favoritism, I guess, or something. But after the mother was gone, they took Julie Sue under their wing and kind of influenced and brainwashed her into joining the Dark Legion. And basically, what happened is in the Knuckles comics, as far as I know, Knuckles ended up encountering her, if you will, or had an encounter with her, and just as Knuckles pulled the hood back, and he was about to say something about, you're about to get your butt kicked, boy. Instead, when he pulls the hood back, he says boy, but with a question mark, because next thing he sees is a girl. So, I haven't read the Knuckles comics that much, so I can't really tell you what happened after that. But basically, all I know is Julie Sue found out, I guess, the truth about the Dark Egg Legion, about what was really happening. Decided she was more like Knuckles, if you will. She wanted to spend time with Knuckles, get to know him, get to know why he wasn't with the Dark Legion, I guess, or something. And in the process, became a good girl, started to fight for what was right, and later on joined the Chaotix. And then around issue 15, 16, and 17 of the Knuckles comic, we started to see a little bit of a flirtation between them. And, well, actually, we'd seen the flirtation, I think, issues before, where she kissed him on the cheek. And 15, 16, and 17 basically established the fact that now the two were a couple, and they currently are. So, Julie Sue is basically Knuckles' girlfriend, formerly of the Dark Legion, now part of the Chaotix. So that's who Julie Sue is. Alright, the ninth question he asked me is, who did Julie Sue fall in love with? Well, I think I just answered that in the eighth with the question of who is Julie Sue. Julie Sue basically fell in love with Knuckles. Like I said, this happened, I think, around issues 15, 16, and 17 of the Knuckles comic. Julie Sue started to feel that there was more of an attraction. Started to feel something more than friendship, with Knuckles. And she wanted to make the relationship mean more. She wanted to go from being friends, if you will, best friends, and just members of a team to something more. And this was all due to the fact that I think she had discovered this Soul Torch legend, which is a legend. A Soul Torch is basically a legend deal with the Echidnas, stating of who the person was matched up with, who the match was going to be in life. And apparently she found out that her match was Knuckles, and Knuckles found out his match was her. So anyway, for the 3 issues, she tried to get Knuckles to finally admit his feelings, try to finally come through, if you will, and take that friendship and make it into a relationship. And that's what happened. On Knuckles' birthday, the friendship became a relationship sealed with a kiss, if you know what I mean. But that's who Julie Sue fell in love with. Alright, the final question he's asking me is, who is Mammoth Mogul? Well, Mammoth Mogul, if you will, is sort of a mystical being that's been alive for eons, for ages, for centuries. And he's basically one of the only guys that I think has direct contact with the Chaos Force in some way. Basically, when he's all basically when he's got things like the sword of acorns, the crown of acorns, when he's got the master emeralds, the chaos emerald, he basically is the most powerful being in on the planet. That's who he is. He's the most basically the most powerful being on the planet to the point that the sorcerer Axis Nagus, bows down to him and does what he says. And we find out that he is Nagus's master. But Mammoth Mogul is basically like a crime boss. But like I said, if he gets his hands on the right stuff, on the right things like Chaos Emeralds, maybe mystical swords and crowns, he becomes all out powerful that he puts Robotnik to shame, if you know what I mean. But right now he's limited in his powers to the point that he's just now a crime boss in New Casinolopolis, as far as the comic states. So that's who Mammoth Mogul is. Alright, he wants me to do some true-false questions now. Alright, the first true-false question he asks is, did Sally fall in love, true or false, he asked, did Sally fall in love with Jeffrey St. John? Well, that is a complicated question that has haunted a lot of fans lately. Well, not a lot of fans lately, but it's a question that plagued a lot of fans for years, and I think in a way still does. Basically what happened is Sally had this miniseries. Archie Comics had produced the Princess Sally miniseries back in 96, 97. And it was sort of a continuation of two backup stories that she had in the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book. Now in the backup stories, she met Jeffrey St. John. Jeffrey St. John basically said he was he was the leader of the Secret Service, of the Secret Service, if you will. Now throughout the three issue, St. John had gained Sally's trust by showing her what Robotnik had planned and telling her that Robotnik had basically hired St. John to try to dupe and work his way into Sally's trust, but because St. John was loyal to the royal family, and basically because his father was, St. John decided to, like I said, let Sally in on what was going on. And the plan basically was like this. What happened is that they prematurely activated this animatronic of Sally. And what Sally did was she decided to so that Robotnik wouldn't be suspicious, Sally decided to take the place of the animatronic in the hyperlock chamber, if you will. So basically, Sally lays down in this chamber, is sealed in, and is basically told, and I guess is put into a sleep or something like that, while the animatronic is out taking her place. So what happens is basically what happens is in the end is Robotnik finds out that he's been duped. And I guess during this whole situation, Jeffrey and Sally developed an attraction to each other. And before they separate, Jeffrey ends up kissing Sally on the lips. And Sally leaves with the question of, well, one heart was, there is now two. Basically, she is telling the reader that basically what she's telling the reader is the place she held for Sonic in her heart is still there, but now she has a place for Jeffrey. But overall, what happened was that in the Sonic Super Special Brave New World, there's a scene where Sally finally admits to Jeffrey that as much as she's attracted to him and everything, that her heart still belongs to Sonic, she still loves Sonic, and that her and Jeffrey can just be nothing more than friends. And Jeffrey's cool with that. Jeffrey is cool with that. And but later on, there's a situation where King Max has to step down, and his son Elias has to take his place temporarily as king, and Jeffrey St. John kind of, I guess, influences his way into being like the earpiece or the advisor for Elias during his temporary term as king. And I guess St. John uses this, in my opinion, if you read the issues, to kind of keep Sally away from Sonic and try to maybe get her back to himself. But in the end, as we know, Sonic and Sally ended up together, if you follow the comic, around 123 and 124. And Jeffrey ended up going with Hershey finally, which a lot of fans had been waiting to see. So, but yes, to answer the question, yes, Sally did fall in love with Jeffrey St. John.